Chapter 8: Language, Contact, Maintenance, Shift, and Death. In the introduction of the chapter, language contact occurs when people from different linguistic backgrounds and the social settings have recurrent interactions through the conversation. The rapid dissemination of language of authority and respect through the subjugation and the colonization has accelerated the emergence of language contact globally. Intrinsic language transformations are subject to the external influence from other language compared to the internal forces. Contact and borrowing. Language contact focuses on transformations in language attribute to influence from other language compared to the intrinsic change of a specific language. Borrowing enables people from neighboring linguistic boundaries to borrow words, sounds, and phrases and integrate them into their native language to communicate and convey a message to individuals from either group. Code switching is another technique that enables language contact because it enables people to master two or more language by switching a set of language rules. By distinction, borrowing often entails adapting words or phrases of one language into the phonetic and linguistic structure of another language. Sociologists need to understand the cultural elements of borrowing than those associated with the code switching. And this approach could allow people to learn different language, giving language as a flexible tool and registers gradually change in a particular societal construct. However, some conservative culture may attempt to counterattack the influence of another language on their native language. The Southern and the Sabacan speaking Western Apache like an ideal example of culture that tried to learn terms of different motor vehicle parts despite speaking very little English. Furthermore, continuous use of a specific language natures of culture of language and enable gradual evolution from one generation to the next. Language maintenance, shift, and death. Language shift refers to the variation in the customary use of one language to that of other language. Language maintenance is the continuous use of a language despite endless regional and the social competition from powerful language. In contrast, language shift refers to the substituting one language with another due to everyday interaction and the socialization. Language death, on the other hand, denotes a community that's the last to use given language globally. Deal language such as Latin and the ancient Greek gradually evolved to endless generalization exchange that result in the generation of standardized speech forms. Here we have examples of like language death, but at the same time shift, shift without death, and language death without shift, and language who which died but was revived or survived. So we have Cornish in England in the 18th century is an example of language death as well as shift to English. Norwegian in the USA as an example of shift without death. We have the Tasmanian language death without shift, and Hebrew, which did die but was revived with the considerable effort in the late 19th and early 20th century. And here we have types of deaf language. We have gradual death, which involve gradual replacement of one language by another, like the Gaelic by English in parts of the Scotland. And we have sudden death, rebate extension of a language without the intervening period of bilingualism, like the Tasmanian. Radical death, due to the severe political repression, community may opt or out of self-defense to stop speaking their language. The last speaker are thus fluent in the dying language, but don't actually use it or transmit it to their children. And also the bottom to top death, a language case to be used as a medium of conversation, but may survive in special use like religion or folks, like that Tezcatl in Mexico, which only with only a few older speakers in scattered village, by survive in the register of prayer. So sometimes these language are survived because of people practice this language in their religion, in their prayers. Cause of shift, groups that don't share similar language can destroy or deprive viable and independent speech communities of their customary land, leading to migration and the resettlement. The assimilation of people and their language into the contemporary civilization can lead to the extensive language shift. Invasions, employee immigration, and trade can also shift one language from one community to another. More native speakers of a specific language often enable a community to maintain the Berlin language. Course of shift, a language may demonstrate specific distribution patterns over certain domains because increasingly public and official domains are assigned to the dominant societal language, whereas more casual and personal domains such as household language assigned to the minority language. And language shift entail the liberal restricting of a language over official, formal, informal, and personal domains. Most language shifts also involve numerous minority language, especially those whose status are destabilized by dominant language. Speaker competence in language shift. Shrinking the domains during a language shift is acute to the declining competence in the subsequent generation of a shift community because speakers of a particular language may demonstrate a range of skills in outbound language from full command to non-familiarity. Young fluent speakers, passive Bilinguals and semi-speakers can be categorized under this group. Gender and shift, language domains, social networks, and gender are essential notions linguists can use to understand how speakers of a specific language accept or resist a shift from their ordinary language to an economically and the socially superior one. The choice of language is often influenced by the speaker's age, social contacts in a communal or workplace setting. Women are more likely to shift to another language, which may be associated with the slightly higher status assigned to women within dominant groups than within the other group. The realignment of identity includes a boost in male power and status at many levels of organization, which women do not readily accept. The linguistic of the lessons, dying languages are often categorized by a limited vocabulary, simplified and generalized inflections, and clear grammatical guidelines that shift words, phrases from one distinctive point to another. During categorization of East Sutherland Gaelic morphology will be used like a brief example of the linguistics of language, the obsolescence lessons. Linguistics can create plural of specific nouns to demonstrate emerging trends, such as the notable increase in the use of suffix. We have a case study, language contact, maintenance, and shift among Native Americans. American Indian language can aid experts in understanding language maintenance and language shift via the notion of the disposed of one. These language maintenance and shift domains are often considered to be like belonging to the linguistic and social process that shape language contact and its social linguistics results. Moreover, a tribe can create language structure can create language structures for their neighbors and develop criteria to establish a suitable means of communication. Although neighboring languages are not associated, European colonization impacted all aspects of the tribal life, such as the instructional language competencies and communication plans to language maintenance. This claim confirms that introducing a tribal language can be correlate to a factor of increased contact and the level with the acceptance of a tribal language. This process has led to formation of new speech forms through the synthesis, language grammar, and debate guideline. Thus, language pluralism should be a dominant subject in understanding the language histories of each native tribes because the desire for language maintenance is growing over time. And here we have uh, William Leib's book, American Indian English, and this case study examine how maintenance, shift, and other sociolinguistic options have played out like at various points in American Indian language contact history. And he made like episodes in intra-tribe contact, European linguistic colonialism, new simplified or mixed lingua francas, English language schooling. saving endangered language. And conclusion. Increased language contact can result in rapid language shifts. Subsequent reorientation of people to a new westernized societal norms can destabilize traditional language forms. Arabization and intense immigration have also contributed to increased language shift in contemporary society, including economic factors such as labor, immigration, and trade. Moreover, demographic factors such as number of native speakers contribute to maintaining a created language contact. So the more people speak a specific language, the higher the chances of that the language is staying preserved for extended period. Also, gender plays a vital role in the shift of language during cultural contact between people from different linguistics backgrounds, and the distribution of speakers of a given language can accelerate the rate of language death and shift. Women are less limited than men in allowing current social networks to establish their language choice. Therefore, sociolinguists should be concerned with the studying the dynamic of language among communities of speakers to control and understand emerging language contacts, language shift, and language death. These experts need to focus on applying their syntactical and phonological know-how to identify endangered language to aid communities in preserving their speech in the wake of more powerful language. And here is my references.